The investigation begins with a cold trail of records. Before she ever stepped foot into the prestigious G residence in Seongbuk, her life was one of constant motion and instability. The documents reveal a nomadic existence, showing a young girl moving restlessly from one place to another, always accompanied by her mother, living in the shadows of the elite world she was destined to enter. A man in a sharp, dark suit sits in his office, his expression unreadable and stern. He holds a stack of papers, perhaps the very investigative reports mentioned, clutched firmly in his hands. His sharp gaze is fixed on the information before him, his brow slightly furrowed as he processes the weight of the girl's difficult past. The clinical setting of the office, blinds behind him, contrasts with the heavy, personal history he is uncovering. The man pauses, lost in deep contemplation. He brings a hand to his chin, his silhouette framed against a backdrop of office folders. The narrative deepens with a tragic realization. The hardship wasn't just about moving, it was about abandonment. Even during the darkest times, when her mother was frail and grappling with illness, the support they should have had was nowhere to be found. A close-up emphasizes the cold reality of the situation. Despite the wealth and power associated with the family name, Chairman G never once visited them. The distance wasn't just geographical, it was a deliberate, cruel absence. The man's suit sleeve and the stark white text box highlight the isolation that the mother and daughter endured while the chairman remained in his ivory tower. The final scene shifts to Soyoung, depicted in profile against a swirling, dark and fractured background. Her long, wavy hair flows like shadows around her, and her expression is one of cold, quiet melancholy. The truth is now laid bare. With a childhood defined by neglect and her mother's lonely suffering, it is inevitable that So Young must harbor a deep, burning resentment toward the man who turned his back on them. The man stands in silence, his head slightly bowed as he deeply contemplates the woman's tragic history. His dark, sharp features are softened by a moment of heavy reflection, as if the weight of her past resentment is now a tangible factor he must account for in his own plans. Behind him, a looming patterned shadow suggests the complex web of family and power that continues to surround them both. Despite the empathy he might feel for her circumstances, his pragmatic side quickly takes hold. Standing in profile, his expression remains guarded and clinical. He reminds himself that in a world built on power and leverage, emotions are a secondary concern. He admits to himself that understanding her pain does not equate to blind faith. He does not trust her completely. He remains physically still, his arms likely crossed or held tight to his side as he refines his internal strategy. The internal dialogue continues with a lingering hesitation, a pause in his logic marked by the thought, "It's just that." He is searching for the exact line between her personal vendetta and his own professional interests, wary of any hidden variables she might be keeping from him. The scene shifts to a brighter, open view of the sky through a window, perhaps representing the clarity he has finally reached. He weighs what he has asked of her, the risks she must take and the roles she must play, against the price she has set for herself. He concludes that her demands are surprisingly simple and straightforward, especially when measured against the magnitude of the tasks he has placed upon her shoulders. The final piece of the logic falls into place. Looking out at the clear blue horizon, he views their relationship through the cold lens of a transaction. He sees a partnership born of mutual necessity and shared enemies. In the end, he decides that the arrangement is sound. All things considered, this is not a losing bargain for him. The story begins in the cold, calculated mind of a man whose gaze is as sharp as a blade. He stares forward with an expression of stoic intensity, his eyes narrowed as if weighing the value of a human life like a piece on a chessboard. Above him, his internal monologue reveals a chilling lack of empathy. And if things go wrong, she's just a card I can throw away. To him, the woman in his life is not a partner, but a disposable asset, a safety net to be discarded the moment she ceases to be useful. As the weight of his own schemes settles in, a physical manifestation of his inner turmoil appears. His hand, pale and tense, pulls into a tight white-knuckled clench. The sound effect punctuates the silence of the room, signaling a moment of suppressed aggression or perhaps a final, firm decision. Despite the turmoil suggested by his fist, his facial expression remains an unreadable mask of calm, reflecting a man who has completely mastered the art of hiding his true intentions behind a handsome, polished exterior. The scene shifts to a high-class social gathering, filled with soft light and the clinking of glasses. Standing amidst the crowd is the woman, the disposable card. She is the picture of elegance, dressed in a sharp tan blazer with her reddish-brown hair flowing gracefully over her shoulder. She holds a glass of red wine, her expression neutral yet tinged with a subtle melancholy. She moves through this world of luxury with a quiet dignity, unaware that she is being viewed as nothing more than a pawn in a dangerous game. The atmosphere changes drastically as the woman leans in, her presence suddenly overwhelming and intimate. The soft glow of the sunset bathes the background in orange hues as flower petals drift through the air. She looks directly into the eyes of her companion, her gaze steady and unblinking. A speech bubble appears above her, carrying a shocking and direct question. "Why don't you have an affair with me?" It is a move that disrupts the expected order of things, a bold challenge thrown down in the heat of the moment. The final moment freezes on her face, captured in a stunning close-up. Her pinkish-red eyes are wide and piercing, filled with a mixture of longing, defiance, and a touch of sadness. She holds a cigarette between her fingers, the smoke curling upward as she waits for an answer. Every detail, from the ornate brooch on her collar to the sparkle in her earrings, emphasizes her status and beauty. In this moment, she is no longer just a card to be thrown away. She is a woman taking control of the narrative, forcing the man to see her as a person with her own desires and dangerous intentions. The narrative draws into a startlingly close perspective, focusing entirely on a single luminous red eye. The iris is deep and multitonal, shimmering with a brilliance that suggests hidden depths of intelligence and perhaps a silent, burning pain. Long, dark lashes frame the eye, and a stray lock of reddish hair falls across the brow, adding to the intensity of the gaze. In this extreme close-up, the world around her fades away, leaving only the raw, unspoken emotions reflected in that singular, piercing stare. The scene shifts back to the man, his profile illuminated by a cold, harsh light. His jaw is set in a tight, determined line, and a jagged clench sound effect appears near his neck, indicating the physical tension of his resolve. Above him, a jagged speech bubble reinforces his ruthless mindset with a sharp confirmation, yes, a card I can throw away. This repetition of his earlier thought serves as a final, cruel affirmation that he has successfully compartmentalized his feelings, viewing the woman purely as a disposable tool for his own ends. The camera drops to the floor, capturing the man's polished black shoes as he stands perfectly still in a sterile modern hallway. His long shadow stretches across the tiled ground, looming over a small, blue-outlined speech bubble that contains a chillingly calm reassurance. So it'll be fine. This short sentence encapsulates his arrogance and detached logic. He believes that as long as he remains heartless and treats people as objects, his plans will never fail. The setting expands to show the exterior of a magnificent high-end building under a deep purple and crimson twilight sky. Stars begin to twinkle above the city lights as flags from various nations, including Mexico and others, flutter in the evening breeze. The architecture is grand and imposing, representing the world of power, politics, and high stakes that these characters inhabit. It is a beautiful yet cold environment, a gilded cage where every move is watched and every interaction is a calculated risk. The sequence concludes with the woman walking away, her back turned to the viewer as she moves through a doorway. She has traded her formal blazer for a more modest tan blouse and a black pleated skirt, her hair tied back in a neat professional bun. A bold step sound effect accompanies her movement, signaling her departure from the immediate scene. Despite the man's view of her as a disposable card, she carries herself with a firm, clenched fist and a steady gait, suggesting that she is far more resilient and determined than he realizes. The story begins with a close-up of a hand reaching out toward an elevator control panel. The atmosphere is quiet, punctuated only by the soft press sound effect as a slender finger pushes the button for the 31st floor. Above the keypad, labels for the pool and cafeteria are visible, but the protagonist's destination is higher, suggesting a more private or executive setting. There is a sense of routine, yet hesitation in this single action. As the elevator ascends, the woman stands alone, her figure reflected clearly in the polished metallic walls. She's dressed professionally in a beige button-up blouse and a dark skirt, carrying a black tote bag over her shoulder. Her reddish-brown hair is tied back in a neat, low bun. Her expression is guarded and neutral, the face of someone preparing themselves mentally before reaching their destination. Looking at her own reflection, a thought bubble appears, revealing her inner monologue. I never thought I'd be coming here this often. She stares at herself with a mix of resignation and curiosity. The word stare emphasizes the intensity of her gaze as she searches her own eyes for an answer to why her life has taken this repetitive turn. The scene shifts to a phone call in progress. A speech bubble from the person on the other end of the line suggests a casual but significant proposal. Let's have a drink. The woman holds the smartphone close to her face, the screen showing the active call interface with the speaker, mute, and keypad options. This invitation seems to be the catalyst for her presence in the building. The sequence concludes with a close-up of her face. Her expression has softened from the cold neutrality seen earlier. A small, almost melancholy smile plays on her lips as she thinks to herself. And for reasons like this, too. Behind her, the blurred, out-of-focus elevator buttons serve as a reminder of where she is, but her mind is clearly occupied by the person on the phone and the complicated reasons that keep bringing her back. As the elevator reaches the final floors, the woman lets out a soft, airy breath, a ha that escapes her lips like a quiet sigh of amusement or perhaps anticipation. A gentle, knowing smile graces the lower half of her face as she adjusts her black tote bag. The glint of her delicate necklace catches the light, matching the subtle warmth that has replaced her earlier stoicism. With a sharp, clear ding, the elevator doors slide open to reveal the luxurious foyer. The camera focuses on her feet as she takes her first step out. She is wearing sensible black Mary Jane flats paired with dark socks. The polished marble floor beneath her reflects the bright, high-end interior of the building, signaling her transition from the public space into a more private realm. The rhythmic step of her walking is suddenly interrupted as she catches sight of someone waiting. From over the shoulder of a tall man with dark, styled hair, we see her stop in her tracks. Her eyes widen slightly in surprise, and a small speech bubble escapes her. "Oh." She stands framed in the doorway, her professional attire contrasting with the domestic luxury of the hallway. The man turns fully toward her with a heavy clump of his shoes, his own reaction captured by a single exclamation point in a speech bubble. Seen now from her perspective, he is strikingly handsome, dressed in a sharp gray blazer over a crisp white shirt. His expression is one of stunned realization, suggesting that while they expected to meet, the reality of seeing each other in this setting still carries a weight of unspoken tension. The two figures now stand face to face in the center of the spacious modern living area. The wide shot emphasizes the height difference between them and the palpable silence filling the room. Behind them, a large cream-colored sofa and minimalist curtains suggest a high-floor apartment. They remain a few paces apart, neither moving closer as they take in the presence of the other. A moment of frozen time before the first word is spoken.